is this gag order request?
Well, it's actually pretty narrow. And although former President Trump says it's trampling his First Amendment rights, there are limits to the First Amendment. And really what the special counsel is asking is that Donald Trump comply with the law. You can't harass witnesses. You can't intimidate them. You can't threaten prosecutors or the judge. So they're trying to, just like the indictment itself, narrowly tailored, surgical, just going after Trump himself. I think what the special counsel is trying to do is very limited, request a gag order just to make sure that the proceedings aren't prejudiced.
Okay, now when we hear don't say anything intimidating or inflammatory to anybody even closely related to this case, that can sound pretty large. I mean, I'm reading from page 2 here. The defendant has an established practice of issuing inflammatory public statements targeted at individuals or institutions that present an obstacle or challenge to him. A lot of politicians do that. Is that illegal?
It's not illegal, and the special counsel in their filings says Trump can proclaim his innocence all he wants. But, this type of rhetoric, it has an effect. I mean, special counsel Jack Smith has received many threats. Individuals showed up at Judge Chutkan's chambers, saying all sorts of racist and threatening things, and she was arrested. So, you need to reserve those arguments for the courtroom. And I understand that he's a candidate for president, and this is unprecedented, but really, some of this is really crossing the line. So I would expect Judge Chutkan to issue some sort of limited order.
I see. So his status as a presidential candidate does not necessarily shield him. By the way, let's say she signs off on this. How is it enforced?
Well, that's the big question. We saw it with Roger Stone. Judges have routinely agreed to these types of orders, but none of them have taken the unprecedented step of actually holding Donald Trump or anyone in his inner circle in contempt. And we saw in the Alex Jones case, most of the judges so far have been all bark, no bite. So we'll see if the order has any teeth or it's just paper that's written on.
Understood. And let me just read part of the gag order request. Quote, the defendant has, again, targeted through recent inflammatory public post, has been subject to intimidating communications. Given the defendant's history described above and the nature of the threats to the court and to the government, it is clear that the threats are prompted by the defendant's repeated and relentless post. So he's almost saying, Judge, you can see it with your own two eyes. Is that a compelling case?
I think it is a compelling case. And, you're not supposed to communicate with witnesses, much less threaten or intimidate them. And we've seen it with Sam Bankman-Fried in the FTX case. He was out on bail. He started communicating with the witnesses, and guess what? His bail was revoked and he was remanded to custody. So really the law is pretty clear here. I mean, again, Trump can campaign. He can say that this is unjust, but you can't be directly going after witnesses, threatening them either directly or indirectly, or really commenting on their integrity. Those are matters that are left for the courtroom, not the campaign trail.
In any of the other 3 cases, do you think those judges could be in some way influenced by this if this judge takes that step? Because it doesn't seem like any judge wants to say a former president, first of all, but a current presidential candidate, they were going to in some way curtail his rights. If she takes that step, do you think others will follow?
I think they will. There's always a hesitation, to be the first. I mean, we saw it with Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. He sort of opened the door by being the first to prosecute Donald Trump, and then others followed through. I think there is that hesitation. No one wants to be the first judge to sanction, much less hold a former president or candidate for president in contempt. I think if one judge does, other judges will be more likely to follow suit.
Neama Rahmani, as always, in these moments, we rely on you. Thank you so much.